All righty. Hello, everyone. I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. So I will start with a roll call of council members. Laurel. She's waving. Oh, you see her. I do. I see you. Do you have sound?
Yeah, I just had my mute on. Thank you.
That's great. Just making sure. Okay, Vicky.
I'm here.
All right, Amber. Here. Kristen. Here. Leanna. Here. And Chelsea here. It looks like Trisha is not here yet, but I think she's gonna be jumping on. All right, item 1.3, the invocation. This is our school. May peace dwell here. May the rooms be full of contentment. May love abide here. Love of one another, love of our school, and love of life itself. Let us remember that as many hands build a house, so many hearts build a school. All right, item 1.4, agenda modifications.
Susan, do we have the?
We do not, the contract did not.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and pull item 2.3.1, well, 2.3 in general. We'll pull that because we do not yet have the contract from Sherwood to look at. So wait, we'll table it, I guess, right? Is the correct terminology. Alrighty, so then it's just 2.1 and 2.2 on the consent agenda. I will take a motion when somebody's ready to make one.
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second. Excellent. Thank you, Kristen, with the motion and Leanna with the second. With that, I will call for the vote. Laurel.
Sorry, I just downloaded a new version and I'm having a little bit different. So
No worries, Laurel. I feel like every time I log into Zoom, it wants me to download a new version that I'm supposed to stumble through. So
thank you for that.
yes, no, you are not alone. All right, Vicky.
I think I say aye.
All right, Amber,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Leanna,
Aye.
and Chelsea, aye. Oh yeah. Oh, that's that. Just kidding. Well, we do, but there are, well, I guess Christina's here. So are there,
I'm here now, it's Trisha.
thank you, Trisha, for coming in. You missed, well, you missed the consent agenda because I went out of order. So item 1.5, audience members to address the council. Okay, hearing none. That's good because I was feeling guilty. All right. That takes us to item 3, governance, Brown Act procedures.
So I'll just speak briefly on the Brown Act. We do continue to share with you whenever there's a training in town for boards, or when the county office or some other charter schools do a training. We always suggest that you go. We also have the online training, the charter management. CSDC, yeah.
Charter School Development.
Charter Development Center, yes. So that is always online, so you're always welcome to attend that. And if you have trouble getting into it, let Alex know, and she'll make sure you have a password, because that's part of that package, just to make sure that you have that training. In looking at Brown Act resources, I found this one, which was simple. And it also, I was asking a question, this is to myself because of something that happened in another Brown Act meeting, not one here. And there were some indications about how we can do the items not on the agenda a little differently. And I've heard this before, but this really was clear about it. So I wanted to bring it up. Because sometimes we'll have someone say something and we would like to possibly have a short answer to that. Or you might ask me to have a short answer to that. And that is actually allowed. What is not allowed, and it's in this document now. What is not allowed is that you, as a board, discuss it. So if somebody asks a question about, they disagree with the date of the Mayfair or something, you can't discuss and say, oh, I agree, or I disagree, or maybe we should change it. But I could answer, this is the way this decision was made. So that I think would help that feeling of they've said something significant and we're just sitting here going,
Thanks for coming.
yeah, great, thanks, we'll talk about it later, and then if we do need to discuss it, then we can put it on another agenda. But the question itself can be answered,
That's great
just
clarification.
a short answer.
I have a question about that.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you saying like if they approach you at the grocery store or if they speak during the open time of the,
If they speak during the open time,
okay,
so you could, if they approach you at the grocery store, you can answer them,
okay,
he said, that's not a problem.
okay.
And, if they were, yeah, that's.
Unless you're with the rest of the members of the board.
Yeah, if you're hanging out together, at the grocery store. You just say, oh, thank you very much. No, yeah. It's really about your discussions more than anything else. So if you think about that. Did you?
I had the same
exact question.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes great sense. Laurel?
There's nuanced things about the Brown Act, of course, but one of the things, I just want to say that one of the reasons it's meaningful to me is if anything were discussed at a school and as a parent, I mean, I'm past those years, but I would really want to have the opportunity to discuss it. And that means that it would need to be agendized if the board were to make comment on it. And I think that's just one of the easiest and most succinct ways to look at the Brown Act is any of us, if there was something that came up spontaneously that we had wanted to have an opportunity to listen to and speak to, we wouldn't be happy about it. And that's really the major purpose of the Brown Act. It's just that transparency. Yeah, I don't know if that was helpful, but
I
so,
think, so,
anyway,
Laurel,
thank you.
and I think it's one of those tricky things that we always want to make sure, I mean, I know at least for myself, to be in compliance. And I think sometimes for myself, it has led me to say, okay, thank you, when, or have the answer, well, we can't discuss that, when really it was, like Susan said, it wasn't a discussion item, it was asked, a question that just needed answering.
Yeah.
And
Good point.
that's a good distinction, being the difference between discussing it and as a board, which is definitely something that parents should and would want to be privy to, versus somebody wanted to know how a decision was made. That discussion already happened elsewhere and that answer could be given. So that's good.
So if like a parent came in and did public comment and it was something that we hadn't discussed, then we would want to put it on the agenda if we felt like it needed more discussion. Is that what I'm getting?
Yes.
Okay.
That's well stated. I'm gonna adjust my Venetian.
Correct.
Yeah.
You can't, because
Can't modify the agenda.
to add something that's not already on there, because then it's not posted for anybody to
Right.
know you'd be discussing it.
And
So-
maybe they want to be here.
And it has to be so many days, otherwise it's a special meeting, it has to be public for so many days. too.
Correct.
Yep, makes sense.
And there's some pretty good guidance around when it can be a special meeting versus regular meeting versus emergency meeting. So that's great. Thank you for that, Susan.
And so I would suggest to go ahead and read through that, just for the sense that it just kind of summarizes Brown Act well.
Yeah, I really liked the way this one was written when I read through it, looking at the agenda packet. I liked it. Yeah, thank you. Because I know some of the Brown Act, some of the things are clearly written by attorneys.
Mhm.
And as they should be, but they sound attorney-ease whatever that speak, and that's not how I speak or process, and so sometimes it's tricky.
I'm
Can
just
you
giggling because
explain
you're
it?
like Attorney E. I know, I agree. I was
Yeah,
gonna get,
attorney
yeah, yeah, no,
Tony,
I'm just
Jenny
listening.
Tony.
'Cause it's
Yes, that legal, like that terminology where you're
Yes.
like,
Did I just say, I wasn't saying that?
so, yeah, this is good. So I would very much encourage you all to read this if you haven't already. Does anybody else have questions on Brown Act procedures or this document or?
None.
Great. So that will take us then into item 3.2. For the strategic plan review.
So this was our last update of the strategic plan, which was May of 2021. Where we went through and we looked at what the goals were. The goals are consistent and where we were on them, and made some changes to due dates and a few things like that. So the finance committee actually, so continuing to develop sustainable school design. The finance committee actually went through these items in the last meeting, or was it the meeting before that? I feel like I remember, but it feels like it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know how long ago, but it feels like it was a long time ago. Anyway, so we have addressed the double single track. That's complete. We have addressed split looping. I haven't really seen any other strategies come up besides that one as far as the teachers are concerned. And so that is, we've addressed that. We'll start that next year. The finalize the plan for a sustainable school and develop transition plan by or before December 30th, 2020. So yeah, so I feel like that is, we felt like that was complete. We
Yeah,
felt like
yes,
we've done
yes,
that.
yeah.
Finalized Blue Oak, and you have approved that plan. Finalized Blue Oak charter school building options for a permanent home. In regards to the purchase of land and building, we are in that process now. Yeah, we're you know, we're doing pretty well. I'm doing okay. Let me say that. Okay. I think a lot of parents are stunned that we're talking about next fall. Or what, next fall?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a lot of that going around, like, really? Yeah, I think so. I had to do Brittany's class, I had to do that. So Turner Agassiz has done over 150 schools, and they say they can do it, so we believe they can. So that's, yeah, I do. So, and then we will have stable enrollment as defined by the Sustainable School Task Force, which we have established that to support the financial needs of the school by 2024. So we are still working on that. Sure, that sustainable level. Most of our classes are pretty close to 30. Our kindergarten enrollment though went back down this year, so I'm concerned about that. Alex and I are meeting with the marketing team again to get that back rolling again as far as kindergarten, but the rest of the classes are pretty full, other than 8th grade, of course. And that's, we knew that was the reality there. So any questions on goal 1? Any comments or changes that you're thinking?
I had one.
Okay.
For the looping, I can't remember, was that gonna be like at a certain grade, or was it like a grade range, or did we even really discuss that?
Fourth.
It was 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years, okay.
Yeah, so
I couldn't
1st through
remember.
4th and 5th through 8th.
Okay.
And there's 2 Northern California charters that are doing that split. And it's child development based.
Yeah, it makes sense. And then are we gonna give like teachers an option, or we're just,
Teachers have already told them what they're to do.
so it's
So,
like,
yeah,
okay, so if they wanna stay with a class.
yeah,
They can.
they have the option to stay with it. they will be asked if they want to stay with the class. And of course, whether or not they can, it's the same now.
Yeah, I was gonna
Depends on
say,
staffing. So it's,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
every year, it's, you know, we talk about looping, and of course we do that, but we also talk every year about placement. And they say, they're asked what they want to do, and they'll tell me whether or not they want to.
Yeah, I wanted them to have the option. That's
Yeah.
kind of like what I, or hoping for.
Yeah,
What-
so they do have that option.
Okay.
What about the flip side? What if there is a teacher that does want to stay and the majority of the parents have seen the updated, guidelines or our plan and they wanted them to loop? Is that something that parents could vote in or come to the board about if they felt, let's say, that teacher was doing great with them, but they wanted to keep going? That happens. You get these,
I think that's
relationships
what
going.
she's saying is
Oh,
the teacher gets to sit, gets to have that input if they want to continue on with their class.
Yes,
then they-
She wants to
so,
know if the parents had it.
Control over, let's say the teacher did say, I do want to go. But
Oh,
I'm just
like I
saying,
don't want to stay with the class.
like we want to loop, because a lot of people
So
in
if
that
we-
taboo of Waldorf is
Yeah.
not looping, and they're like, what, same teacher, are they gonna advance? It's different, you have to learn relationships, and in the end, it's really great, right? But some
Right, I
parents
guess I'm
don't.
not asking, I'm not understanding, you're saying
I
if the
think Susan
parents,
understood
if
this.
the parents don't want the teacher,
no, if the parents are like, it's fourth grade, I love our teacher, she says she wants to continue, we want you to know that we want her to continue too. And yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, definitely you could have input, it still is a staffing decision
yeah.
though, so,
That makes
there may be things that you don't know.
Right,
That makes sense.
right,
Thank you.
Never always decide what's best for the children.
exactly. Children first. Waiting for another question in that?
No, yeah, and
Oh.
if we don't have another question, I'll go
Yeah.
on, or will you go too?
I will actually just, in this one case, because we had a couple teachers come in recently, let's say if for some other reason they just got them, like, it's also staffing, but they came in at second, and so second, third, fourth, it's too soon. Still gonna be approaching that loop just to get them ready to go into an upper grade, start, okay.
The focus, the reason that this came up initially is the difference in the curriculum between first through fourth and fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. So it's, and so it's something that's happening in public Waldorf schools where we have that different kind of expectation than a private Waldorf school does.
Mhm.
So what was going on is that the upper grades teachers were really like, this is hard, and so they're 1 year teaching fourth graders and then fifth grade, there's a big switch in the
Right.
mindset for that. And they were having a hard time getting themselves up to date on that higher level curriculum. On the converse side, for the lower grades, for me, teaching reading is a big deal. And so you had a teacher would say to me, well, it's been 8 years since I've taught reading before. So I have done a lot of reading instruction myself. So I was finding myself reminding the teachers how to teach reading because I hadn't done it for 8 years. So that keeps them in that, first through fourth is all about learning to read and apply, and then in fourth grade is about applying that. So they'll be in that same loop, working with young children who are learning to read instead of the other. So it is a curriculum based, which is not necessarily a Waldorf choice, but it works for the public education system.
Yeah, semi-plus.
I think something else to note and be mindful of too, if I'm remembering correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in most private Waldorf schools also, upon completion of the upper level grade, whichever grade they go through, they get a year sabbatical typically. To then prepare, to relax, to refresh, to be
Mhm.
ready to start a loop again. Versus just that shotgunning, you
Right down
And-
to,
yeah, you
grade.
finish eighth
Blank
grade and
slate,
2 months
yes.
later you have first
First grade,
graders
yeah.
and don't really have that time during that period of time, there's also trainings and classroom setups and all of that. And so I also think that there's that difference to be mindful of too.
It is a big choice, to go eighth, so we found ourselves also losing some teachers in eighth grade. because they're going, okay, do I want to start this over again? And the answer would be no, and so they'd go find another position. Or they'd try first grade and they'd be like, I really don't want to do this again. And, you know, so it's because it is like, 8 years is, you know,
It's a big commitment.
you know, and yeah, it's a big commitment. And then you've done that commitment, you've graduated those students, and it's a big decision. So that was another piece that I saw when I first got here.
I think the only concern that I have with not having as much of black and white and not split looping is with such a gray area, then it becomes, I almost feel like a burden on the teacher. Because then you have parents who are like, well, don't you want to stay with our class? And so then it's kind of like a pressure situation, but also if you have a group that is really interested in staying in the middle school, then when you have a class hit 4th grade and that teacher goes, actually, I think I'd like to come carry them through middle school, then what happens to your middle school team that's been working for potentially 2, 3, 4 years in the middle school? Then you're in this situation where it's like, okay, well, do we then say, okay, you've had this class for 4 years, you get to continue with them. Somebody who's been working to really develop as a middle school teacher is getting bumped to that 1st grade class, or then this whole shuffle. And so that would be my only concern, is the flip side of that, where it's every time that class hits 4th grade, or a class hits 4th grade, if that's what the split is, then it's this whole, okay, so what's everybody doing kind of thing, versus there being kind of a more
Set.
this is the expectation, this is what parents can expect coming in, of like, you know, because I know when my son came into this school, it's like the hope and expectation, if you will, would be that they'd stay with the same teacher through 8th grade. Obviously, circumstances will change that. But you know, you had that trajectory to look forward to, versus you know, the looping of, well, this is what is typical. You'd have the teacher for 4 years and then go into the second set of teachers. So just something to think about, that stability piece of, you know, for the teachers, for the students, kind of knowing what comes next. So
It's a process every year.
sure.
And the teachers have learned over the past 4 years, as I've worked with them, just to say, you're not going to know until you know, because you never know. We had a situation, oh, we're not going to have a position, 2 8th grade teachers, not enough positions. And, you know, one of the lower grades teachers said, you know, I need to go, my mom's ill, I need to go down to Sacramento. And it's like, and there's the job. So you never really know until you know. So it's always the best just to be intentional, think about what you really want to do. And that's what I love about the Blue Oak teachers, is they really go to their heart and really try not to be, you know, like I need to do this. It's more like, what do I feel like I really want to do? And so that's when I hear them saying, I really want to stay in upper grades, or I really want to stay in lower grades. And I think you'll find they're making those decisions. They're thinking about that, and have been now for a couple of years. And so I could see that happened when parents were insistent, and maybe the teacher was afraid to tell them what she really wanted, or maybe she would tell them what she really wanted. It wouldn't be what the school. I mean, that can happen.
Right.
But we just need to follow the process and work through that. So, basically, yeah.
It's probably, delivery, and then, because I have a 4th grader, so, maybe even like warming the parents up to it early and giving them the, hey, this is why, because it really makes sense when you say it. Like when you break down the curriculum, it's like, oh, duh. But like as a parent, you're not always thinking about that, because you're like, but I love this teacher,
Right.
But if they knew, well, you're gonna have her for 1 more year.
Yeah.
And then,
I
so
think
it's
this
probably,
is
that's probably.
a good
That's just
example,
my side.
because I think that one started in 2nd grade, correct? So it's actually been 3 years. This will be your third year.
Mhm.
So that's where, again, is it the fourth year? Is it really because of the
Because it's the
grade?
curriculum, she's saying.
It's-
So
Yeah, I
yeah,
know,
it doesn't
I know.
matter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which
So
makes
that
First and fourth and fifth
total
grade.
sense, because if you.
Which in
take
that
kids
case, we're on,
through-
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because it's just totally different, the difference between.
So,
those two
yeah,
grades.
first through fourth is learning to read, and in fourth grade, they really begin to read to learn. And then
Mhm.
fifth through eighth is reading to learn. So there's a really.
Susan, would you speak up, please?
Oh, sorry. I was just explaining that, in the child development and the curriculum, first through fourth is really focused on learning to read, and then fourth grade really beginning the reading to learn. And so having teachers that are expert in that process will be helpful. And then that fifth through eighth, where they're really using their skills to learn other subjects more, is the fifth through eighth for our schools. So that's one of the reasons the split in the curriculum makes sense there. Did you agree with that, Vicki?
I do. I agree with it.
Thank you.
I just couldn't hear it.
Okay.
The air conditioner just kicked on too. I don't know if it makes it harder
It
to hear.
probably
I'm
does.
grateful it's on though.
Okay. All right. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you, that was helpful.
okay. Goal number 2 is creating an in-reach outreach task force. I don't know that we have this as formally as we did for goal 1, but we definitely have had a variety of teams working on this. And of course, the outreach, this has been more difficult because of COVID. So I'm not, I am being thoughtful about the fact that some of these we're not as able to do as we would have liked to. We did, of course, continue with the work of MC2. We've done our, we've gotten through our initial piece of that. They're asking us now about ideas moving forward. So we have made progress on that. We may want to go back and revisit the task force and really what we would want them to do now. 2 ongoing events for the school calendar. That of course ended up sort of not happening yet because of COVID, but again, we've given ourselves to December 23, so I would say that's an area to work on now. I know that my understanding is the parent council is working on doing the walk into winter again this year, so so there's one event, and do we want another one and what that would look like? I think that I would really like to bring staff and parents together to have those discussions. Our focus has been on getting the marketing piece worked out, and we did get that done, so. All right, so that was goal 2. Anything else on goal 2?
I just have a question about the committee, if that team, task
Yeah.
force, that's the word, sorry. Who sorta was on it, or you said it wasn't actually ever formally designated, anybody?
It will, Riley Murray was on it, and Cheryl Grant was on it, as far as our work to present Waldorf in a way, and Alex and I were on it. Is anybody else on that, when we were meeting with MC2 initially? I'm trying to remember.
I want to say Monica McDaniel.
Oh, yes, she was involved. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, she was when we first went through that. Now I'm remembering.
And that's a continued goal too, so that will be something that we're still working on moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some of those, like, I don't want to say deadlines, but goal
Right.
dates are not yet
Yeah,
arrived.
just
So we're still good on some of that. And again, that's one that sort of took a back burner during
COVID.
COVID, especially the event part, kind of stopped, so.
But I do just want to, I think it's an important goal though, especially since marketing is important to us. It would be great. I would try to help if you want. I don't know, looking at dates or other things we could do. I know we've been here since first grade. I do remember walking into winter, but I don't remember anything else. I feel like that we really dropped, that we didn't continue after COVID. So I was just kind of, that's what I meant, by like what maybe was done even, before we came to the school that I'm missing out on.
So from a strategic planning, it was at the meeting when we were creating these goals, it was less about like what we've done and maintaining it. It was about adding new events. And so at that point, Walk into Winter was kind of one of the new events that was potentially going to be one of those two ongoing events, but then COVID hit. And so it's great that that's coming back. And so I think the other one, I don't think it's a matter of anything got dropped because we've been here a long time. And
Is this something to consider putting on the,
starting new.
to talk about?
Yes.
I think-
I think the parent council is thinking along these same lines. I also have been, as I pondered that, wondering if it's time, number one, to have a town hall meeting around the goals, or even to go back to the drawing board with a strategic plan and have a facilitator come in again and really have that discussion again. As we're getting on these goals, we're kind of getting down to just a little bit to do, which is nice in one way, but then what's our next plan? So that's another.
That
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's what I was actually gonna ask. Would it be appropriate to sort of revamp? 'Cause like I read through all these goals and this kind of seems like one that definitely we could do a lot of work on, especially if our kindergarten enrollment's down. And so, would it be a good idea to do another task force and get a town hall, get some input from parents, like, why did you choose for kinder? Were you looking to the future? Because I know we do focus a lot on the curriculum that is the K through 4th, or kindergarten separate, but then the 1st through 4th, but
For highlighting.
yeah, for highlighting, but some of our curriculum for junior high is not as focused on, but it should be because it's great. And some parents, maybe sitting at this table, think way ahead like that. I'm thinking, I'm going into kindergarten, and what are they doing in 8th grade? So kind of seeing, and there probably is some parents that are like, I just want a great kinder program, and is not even thinking about the future. So sort of getting those ideas from different parents and why they made those decisions might then help us kind of target market going forward, to keep the kiddos here too, because we do lose a lot in junior high, and figure out that piece, or even past parents, why'd you leave? What were we missing? Might be helpful.
I think, go ahead.
The points that have already been made also, is it a place where we should discuss footage with more of a math choice? Like update, like the Walking into Winter, that kind of stuff, just having more updated footage versus the ones that we saw.
That's all I was gonna say. We
That
talked
was
about
kind
the
of a
more
bummer.
middle school, I think, in there as well, some of the,
But yeah, it's kind of a
Projects
bummer that we have the math in there,
are-
but
I
it just
know.
was the time,
And even, I know there's obviously like parent, disclosure film or whatever, but if it's like, I don't know, back where you can't see, or from a back angle, but where you can see like parent involvement kind of stuff, if there's agreement, however they do that. But just showing like active parent involvement, the school listening to parents. It's not my lane
Those are
to
good
be in,
ideas.
but just thinking like, you know, if those things are happening, it's a good place to grab footage if possible.
And we definitely were in a place for that, it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I know.
yeah.
So-
I'm not
yeah,
trying to
okay.
say what
Yeah.
should be done or anything like that, just the idea of more mass
engage-
choice
like-
footage.
Like, footage of a parent council meeting. You know,
Yeah.
People
Yeah, I
sitting around and talking about, parents sitting around and talking
Or-
about school or.
Or a virtual tour, or
Yeah.
revamping our tour process, because
Mm.
that's, you know, huge too. So,
I definitely think it's time for that task force
Because
to
it's so-
be rejuvenated.
We've
Yeah.
rejuvenated and
So-
prioritized.
Especially in time with the new location.
yes, and being able to show that as we're coming through
Or
our
an event.
tours, or it's in our footage, and this is our new location, or, I mean, there's so many things that have changed, I feel like, that it would be cool to revamp that.
Was that the same thing you were gonna say, Kristen?
Hmm.
About having more footage with mass
Well,
choice?
the middle schoolers, I think it is amazing when you walk through halls and just see their ability to just the 3D, the images, the art that they do from kindergarten all the way until eighth. I think going, you know, I've worked in other countries, I've seen other middle schools. It's pretty incredible that the majority of them are
Artists.
it's extreme
Yeah.
artists. It's,
Yeah.
that's not a coincidence. You know, it's amazing. It starts young and they continue that and they really get a gift. And that should be even like an art exhibit annually, something, obviously these are more ideas for the task force, but I do agree, more
So we
media
have
on our
some
middle
work to
school.
do To really fill out the information about what
Yeah.
it's doing.
And I was actually gonna say the opposite, because I think we do a really good job on the art portion. But if you've ever experienced like Allie's class, and like, you know, when she
The
does
science.
botany, and when she, like, her history blocks are pretty amazing. And,
The more, what people consider a more traditional
Traditional.
academia.
yeah, I think people don't realize that we're still held to the same public school standards. And so, like, you think of, like, we're competing against like Bidwell, that's like a STEM school, you know, so.
But yet we are the original.
I know,
Right, but I
but we
think
don't-
that's something
that's
that
the
we forget
thing.
to promote,
It's actually
like,
You
we're STEM school because we don't really have the T, but
Yeah.
this is technology, but we.
But I think some
you know,
parents would like the T out, so,
Yeah.
you know, because they try to get that out too. So,
It's a really good point.
yeah, being able to promote that we actually are too.
A display of the art supporting the
Education.
education, not replacing the education.
Exactly. Because we have really strong programs there, and you don't know unless you're in it, like, you just don't realize.
It's so hard, and that's working with MC2, it is so hard to explain the depth of program that we present. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but we do have that really strong academics too in that, in those grades, and maybe that's why we kind of lose kiddos in the junior high, because we're not selling it well enough, because we're definitely teaching it well, from my experience, and I know you too, you've got a middle schooler, you as well, so,
Jeff
Yeah.
just tested very high in all of his stuff. He just tested ninth grade reading level. and
yeah.
first grade, eighth grade,
And,
for
and
his
maybe,
baseline.
maybe we can tout some of those statistics, because we do get a bad rap for that kind of stuff, you know? So, seeing where they start to where they're ending is pretty huge for this school. So, and it's, you know, we have a kind of a good, and then also I think some parents might like the change in the school because of the curriculum, or the change in the teachers because of the curriculum and how we focus the junior high, we focus the elementary. Yeah, things like that.
So
So,
also we're finding, I mean, we did that switch between Jennifer and Brianna at sixth grade, it was in sixth grade. And children responded well to it.
yeah,
It was like they were ready for a new person. And as they're changing and evolving at that point in their life, they were kind of ready for
They don't want the
someone
person that
else.
held their hand on the playground to know who their first boyfriend or girlfriend,
And
crush,
that
whatever
could
it
very
is.
well be. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That cross-
All right,
Cool.
so really making that,
Yeah, really revamping that goal would be cool.
yeah, and thinking about how to, and I think that would be a good place to have a town hall meeting and talk to people about how we want to do that. And how's that gonna go?
All right, before we get into the next goal, I see Tricia.
Yeah, just, I know that we kind of got into that one a lot, but the other thing that I hear a lot of is some parents are adverse because they have one teacher for so long, I think, and make parents aware that even in the lower grades and the upper grades, they don't just have one teacher because they have their Spanish and their handwork, and they have these other teachers that are helping them. So they're not just one person. They don't have to get used to taking direction from other people. So.
That's a great point. Yeah, and in junior high too, we have electives.
Yeah, exactly. And I think most people think that it's not, they don't get that opportunity here, which isn't true. So.
Yeah.
Which I want to say amazing electives already this year. All the kids' feedback were just like filling up. They're mad that they couldn't get their first choice because, you know, 8th and 7th. I just heard the electives are just really, really wonderful. So some deep
Good. Glad to hear that.
All righty, so
So
many great ideas. I'm excited for that task force to be
She didn't ask for
kind of
it.
ramping.
know.
No,
We
but I
already
think,
started
I mean,
task force.
if that many great ideas come from this small of a group of people, I'm excited for what a task force can do
Yeah,
to
for
really
sure.
run with that goal and expand it.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, goal 3.
So, the faculty asked that, so we've done some work on a behavior plan and on social emotional curriculum and all of that. The faculty asked that we really focus on behavior for professional development this year. Coming back from COVID has been tough for kids. So we're seeing a huge increase in need and struggling in a lot of different ways. So we did start a return to, Chelsea will probably remember the Stop, Walk, Talk, which is a, we went through and looked at 3 or 4 different curriculums and this was a teacher in Amber and actually Allie and Amber that really got together and looked at all this and said, really, that is a really strong curriculum. So that's been implemented this year with the teachers again. Lower grades, that's great, it's perfect for them. Can they stop? The upper grades, and I don't know if it's because they've learned it, a lot of them learned it when they were little and now we're reinstituting it and I think it's baby stuff, but we're struggling a little bit with getting them to understand that it applies to them too. When somebody's doing something that you don't like, you tell them to stop it. If they don't stop it, you walk away from them. If they continue at it, you go tell someone. So that, it's a really basic process. It's the same thing, whoever we are, from children to adults, but we're having a little hard time getting the middle school buy-in. So Amber's working on some different wording that might be cooler. She's pretty good at that. So, so she's working on a way to kind of address the upper grades in a more positive, in a more positive way. And then looking also at professional development and how to bring back some of the trainings that we've had for dealing with suicidation and everything for middle schoolers seems to revolve around some sort of relationship. Every time I get into any conflict, it's a relationship issue. So, so how do we address those relationships in a way that helps to minimize the conflict and the fighting that goes on. So all of that is all part of that behavior. Because behavior is kids trying to tell us something. And with technology and COVID, there's been sort of some bad learning going on. So we're really trying to go back and look at that. So yes, to some extent, we have the plan moving forward with building the professional development and with a stop talk curriculum. So we're moving forward on that. Do I feel it's complete? No, I don't.
Do you feel like maybe goal 3, because we would, I don't know if we're allowed to sort of suggest, but do you think if for goal 3, maybe it should be different for parts of it for the lower grades and the upper grades? Because for instance, kids are getting phones like about 5th grade, which would be sort of our junior high level. So things that they're experiencing are going to be different than sort of the playground disagreements. I'm not talking about the big behavioral issues, but those littler issues that go on, the little social issues that go on are going to be much different from the 1st till 4th and maybe 5th, depending on developmentally where the class and the kids are, and separating those in the 5th through 8th, because they're dealing with, more intense relationships, social media stuff, different things like that, maybe, because I feel like this would be more of an ongoing goal, because with technology, there's new challenges that come up almost yearly with some of these kids. So possibly that's one.
Laurel, do you have an additional question? Or are you responding to Amber? Laurel? Laurel, you're on mute.
I understand what she's saying, and to that point, I would suggest that it might be valuable to ask the students themselves, given that we have these conditions in place, we need to get along, given human nature and how people want to be treated. I mean, I'm sure you have people who could set it up really well, but I would suggest asking the students. I can remember a situation very vividly where the teachers and the aides were having a difficult time putting it together, and we kind of turned to the kids and they had a great idea. So you might form a little ad hoc committee and see what they come up with. I don't know, just a suggestion.
Yeah, what their challenges are, or even the leadership,
Yeah.
or student council.
I was just gonna
Yeah,
say,
yeah. Because they'll know best because they're also, if they feel part of it. I mean, there's probably certain virtues, right? Like respect. Obviously, that's gonna be the same whether you're a 1st grader. You might be taught to you differently, but the same if you're a 1st grader than if you're an 8th grader. But
Don't really.
Having them come up with the key words and
yeah,
phrases that they own, and I would try to be as inclusive as possible, because sometimes it divides it where you have that leadership group, but it's not really accepted by others. But I would get them to kind of brand it and come up with those phrases and such. And you might even, if they do a really good job, you could even consider validating it with some professionally printed posters or something, kind of give them that ownership and that you're really noticing and listening to their good ideas. And that said, I'm sure lots of good things are happening. This is just a suggestion.
Great. Hold on just a second, because Vicky's had her hand up. But Alex, can you do me a quick favor? Can you change the view instead of speaker? Can you put it on the grid? Because I think with this meeting, since it's mostly charter council, then at least we can. Then I'm not the only one that knows that Vicky's got her hand up. So Vicky, please go. Thank you. Thanks.
I was just I agree with what Laurel has said, that the kids need buy-in, but also I think this needs to be discussed with the staff and or those that will be implementing this curriculum. They're You know, we can talk about it all we want sitting here with no kids around, but they're the ones that have the actual job to do. That's all I wanted to say.
That's great. Thank you, Vicki.
I was gonna say, it's interesting, I was pulling my kids, asking them what they thought the biggest problem at their school was, and it was, and some of the responses were interesting of, you know, not what you would think, like, one of my daughter's responses was cussing in the hallways. And, okay, you know, like, there's, you know, and in higher grades, you know, there's a baby and pregnancy, you know, like all kinds of things going on that are not exciting, you know, that are difficult conversations, and I didn't expect cussing in the hallways, but, you know, just their perspective of, you know, what is the biggest issue that they feel like on a daily basis. And then, I think it's even been featured in, what's the cheap upgraded living, but, I really like, and it's probably been maybe discussed before, but, like Bidwell, adopted the Bidwell way. And it's kind of their code of conduct, their ethical standard, you know, that kind of thing.
Chico Junior calls it the
The
Cougar Way.
The Cougar
because
way,
Their mascot's the Cougars, and that's
Yeah.
better than the Chico Junior Way.
yeah. So, I mean, but some kind of like the buy-in of, you know, conduct. But I agree for like the 5th through 8th graders, they need a little bit something different, in my opinion.
It comes to mind, my daughter just did 5th grade, and a form went home when we went to approach sexual education, that part. What about it being something that's repeated in the classroom, like not a bullying block, but what's the word, social emotional block, and there's a form that they can take home, and it can be anonymous, and they can write down things, you know, that like what she's saying, but hearing in the classroom, because some people really find it rude and others don't. There could be this disrespect, and talk about what's a level of respect that should be, because again, we're all in a public school, we have different families, older age, we have some classes that have 11-year-olds with almost 13-year-olds, and so it's really hard to find that medium. And so really bring it back in 6th and 7th and 8th, like a topic, almost like I remember in homeroom, where it wasn't your actual teacher and you were mixed, and you get to talk about subjects that were kind of taboo, and you're not with your actual grade. So something like that could be brought every year, or every mid-year maybe, because then we get to see what problems are already happening, they'd be more updated. And then trying to address
too
it.
with the kids.
Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna discuss
So
it.
I'm hoping
Not to
Alice
get
is
too
getting
far
this
off.
good idea.
I know, we got
Okay.
totally,
And,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think,
yeah, but as
I guess
Vicki
we're just
said,
our
we
own
need to-
task force, sorry.
We need to get the staff and the students.
I know,
So-
that's. what I
so
mean,
Amber
students.
and Amber and Ally are on that, right?
They're the bullying committee.
Yeah, they're on that
Bullying
committee, so
prevention.
yeah, they could probably even have good input on who could come in on that to help
Yeah.
out too. But so I guess the point was is that one could be obviously revamped and ongoing too, right?
Ongoing
Yeah.
and maybe developed a little.
Developed a little bit more,
Yeah.
because the kiddos are changing so much and there's so many different challenges they have that they maybe didn't have 2 years ago,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah. It's,
No, I definitely agree. Alrighty.
I'm gonna go four, we had, and I've shared this before, we had this year for the first time a professional development calendar, which talked about when we're gonna do different subjects. And reviewing that with faculty, they were glad to have had the calendar, but it was overwhelming because we did so many different things. And so they really asked us to focus on one area, and the choice was to work on the behavior work, which is part of what Amber and Ally have been doing. And then we also have that coming through our MTSS process, which we're working on as well. So do we have a really nice, beautiful plan? No, but we definitely have a process that's working better. So I would say that.
Is that when you redo every year too?
Yeah,
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 right,
we,
that would be
yeah, that would
ongoing.
be, if we're looking at the professional development plan in its largest process, it would say, it would include things like the summer training that teachers go to. We haven't put that in the plan because it's just something we do, but, how are we assuring that, if we look at the fidelity integrity assessment that we do every year for the school. And if we look at the Alliance for Public Waldorf and their expectations to be a Waldorf school as a public Waldorf, we definitely need to look at those and say, how are we addressing the bigger needs of the school for the long term? And that's where a professional development plan would be. We've got 3 years, we need to do these kind of trainings over the next 3 years. We're not there yet. We're at, what do we need to do this year? And that feels good, but we want to do that next step of really saying, this is how we assure that we have teachers that understand the Waldorf methods. This is how we want to make sure that we have our paraprofessionals understanding what a paraprofessional can and cannot do. Those are things, you know, that a professional, a full-on professional development plan would be. Like, how do we make sure we're reaching our goals through professional development? And right now, we're much closer to like, this is an immediate need. We need to spend some time on this. And that with the diversity task force and that issue coming up, that, you know, that was added kind of to everything else last year, so it's floated to the top. Got a lot of good attention last year, but we haven't determined how we're gonna do that this year again. So,
And I would say, I know you kind of mentioned the summer training kind of not being in that because it's just something we do. I would advocate that there is value to including that in the bigger plan, because as you haven't, like, if you have a new teacher coming into the school and being able to share with them what their professional development journey would look like, for them, it's not just something that they do, because they've never done it before. So knowing that, like, to continue to develop you as a Waldorf teacher, or to begin developing you, that's part of what your professional development would look like. And I think even a good reminder for teachers who have been here a while, if they're looking at the plan, maybe not like every tiny little piece of that, because that could, I feel very overwhelming, but that reminder as I go into the next grade that I do have this support there, that yes, that is something that we just always do, but a really large component of their training is on the Waldorf side of teaching. So just, but I do love.
From a financial standpoint, I just think about that goal as like, it's attached to their pay scale too, right? Like,
the
development,
Waldorf, the actual Waldorf certification.
yeah,
And semester or like college units.
yeah, and
are
college
attached to
units and
that.
things like that, so
But that's more personal professional development, like
then
we,
staff,
I think the difference between this goal and that is, this is what we're doing to develop our staff versus if they decide to seek
so they're
further
separate, okay,
education, yes, it does have a,
cool, I was
an
just
impact
curious
on
if those were looped together. Yeah, I mean, it seems like they did a lot of training last year and had a lot of, there was a lot of like things that were accomplished off of this, and I mean, the inclusion task force was pretty huge. I mean, there was a lot that came out of that. So it's probably ongoing, but I mean, this one was like, I think considering where we were and with COVID and everything, a lot did still get accomplished. You know,
I would agree.
yeah, a lot, I would say. I mean, I see it in the teachers and some of them talking about some of the trainings they went to and that they went to together, and they definitely got a lot from it, it feels like, for sure,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah, a lot of building of understanding, I think.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to really talk about what they needed to do. Yeah, there's a big.
Yeah,
and using those opportunities to see which of them were great for that year and which are good for ongoing to add to the plan. So I think there's going to be a lot of that. Like you were saying, it still feels like, okay, we know what we need this year, but don't necessarily have the 5-year, PD plan. But I do think that in that there's value in both, like having a bigger picture plan, but also being flexible enough to say, like, this year is different than next year and is different than last year. But in each of those, or as you're going into this year, doing those polls, like, is this something that was valuable as a one-time? Is this an ongoing? Is this something everybody should have once? And, getting the teachers' thoughts and the staff members' thoughts as they do those trainings as to that.
In my report, I'll talk about the fidelity integrity assessment. That.
Awesome.
To kind of move that longer term planning forward. I think that's the next step, kind of in this year to year. So, if in a perfect world, I wouldn't be talking about what professional development we're doing this year in September, we would have planned in April.
Right.
We're not in that perfect world yet. But we're still making use of what we need to. So the SPIA and some of other documents are really about, what are we doing? LCAP, FIA, longer term planning and how that fits.
Right. Nice. Progress. Baby steps. All right, so goal 5, the rough draft of charter renewal to be completed by June 30th of this year.
So, that due date was based on the 2023 renewal, which is now 2025. So.
Oh, that's right.
So, yeah, it would have been very important to have it done last summer, except that because of COVID, they pushed everything out 2 years.
Oh,
Right.
So Riley is, in one of her projects is to work on that and get that started for us. This year, she's not working on that project yet. She's working on the other projects. But we have actually until we would want to be ready to turn it in by the end of next year. So we'll be fine.
So that
So
would
it's
just be a
good
date
this fall.
update.
A date update.
Yeah, okay, cool.
That's great. Great, well, that's awesome that there's already, Riley's got that in her queue already, even though we have so much more time, so I feel like we're ahead on that goal, so that's good.
So we'll
Yeah, nice.
we'll get at least a rough draft done this year, and then we'll have a year to look at it further if we need to, and then, the goal is to turn it in as early as possible in the fall of 24. Because the sooner we get it in, the sooner we get it approved, and the sooner everybody goes, oh, okay, that's done.
Right, yes.
Does that go to council? Does the charter council see that?
Oh, yes,
Yeah, okay.
Several times.
yes.
Okay.
You
Yes.
will
I haven't been through that
definitely-
process, so I was just
You
curious.
will, you will establish a committee. You
I've been through
will-
that process on the staff
do that.
side and the council side.
Oh,
It's a
And then
lot.
it goes to the Chico board.
or, and then, yeah, is that the one what Kyron was talking about, how he usually goes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's our data guy, so.
So,
he
yeah,
does
yeah,
all
makes
the
sense.
stuff.
Okay, cool.
He goes and shows all the charts and graphs.
Yeah,
And
okay, cool.
Jennifer goes, this is the team last
Yep.
time, and I don't see why not. Jennifer goes and does the eloquent speaking.
Oh, I love it.
Articulates the value of Waldorf education.
That'd be
and
cool
what it
for-
looks like, yeah.
To let our parents know too, when that goes to Chico
They did
Unified.
a really good job of that before.
Oh,
and we
yeah?
actually
Oh,
had
cool.
great turnout and representation at the
Yay.
last charter renewal. We had
Cool.
a School board meeting, so it was good, and students and, yeah. it was
Oh,
great.
really? Oh, cool. Okay.
Some of the kids got up and said it for the first.
Oh, neat. Okay.
It was cool.
When was the last one then?
18,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay.
spring of 18, yeah.
That was like my first year.
By the way, you know, that makes me learn all the other
Thanks,
things.
yeah.
Like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay, and then the final one, the creative fundraising task force, which again is one we want to bring back up. We are doing grants. We have done some grants. We have the MTSS grant. Some of the funding that we get from the state that I'm reporting to you is grant money. So will we have at least 5 by 2025?
Do you think
Yeah,
that
I think-
do you think that that one can lean more towards like the parent council and then each classroom? Because I know even in our classroom meeting for one of the grades I went into, we were talking about having like, because we you know, we do our class meetings and we're focused on a lot of the curriculum stuff. And then when you're like, have a kid in fourth grade, you're like, oh, we need to really focus on some fundraising too. And so like Trisha was in that class. We were talking about doing a separate meeting just for fundraising. So do you, because I think that's a lot to sort of put that on administration and teachers. We have a strong parent council. We have strong parents in the classrooms that are focused on fundraising.
Yeah, so I mean, I can speak to kind of what the intention of this was just to kind of more, not necessarily that the administration or even that the teachers would be the one writing the grants, but helping to direct them. So you don't have everybody or every classroom kind of looking for these grants and potentially having one school have 2 people apply for the same grant or things like that.
Oh, so
It would be more to-
specifically for grants then?
Yes.
Okay,
and that
so it
was-
wasn't just the
and
everyday
there
fundraising.
was more, it was more big picture fundraising,
Right,
less
okay.
classroom fundraising and more big picture. So grants were a big part of this because the discussion was that we continue to year after year kind of asking the same asks to the same pool of people.
Yeah.
So really this goal was how do we expand the reach? How do we expand the pool outside of our parent and
Yeah,
immediate
that was,
community?
that brought up
Community
in our
donations,
meetings, yeah.
Yes.
That it
and-
was like, we're
but-
dipping into the same pool all over and
Correct,
over
and
again.
that was
Okay.
kind of the discussion around developing this goal.
I see
But
the grants,
without, yes, and that's where those grants came from, but without it falling specifically on the administration, but like,
Because grant writing is a huge undertaking.
it can be, but there's tons of grants that are smaller grants that are more local that are pretty easily reached. I know Amber Gregson, yes, wrote, and received a grant for our class several years ago, and it was a pretty small undertaking because it was, a more informal process. So that was kind of the intention behind this goal, was that there would be some staff, faculty, administrative oversight to help keep
But would
it
you
from
want the
like
community to?
growing to this weird, like, everybody's applying for grants, but help to kind of say,
Oh, gotcha.
these are
Okay.
good grants to focus on, but then having a task force behind it
Mm.
that would include parent council and classroom parents and that kind of thing to help
This would be a good ride.
run with it.
And one
you know,
more
kind
for
of
her.
Let her finish the one she's on.
But more to organize kind of.
Oh,
the
yeah, okay,
asks.
that makes sense.
Christina, I do see you, and once the council has their comments in, we'll call for parents. So thank you, or for community. So thank you for raising your hand. I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you.
Okay, thank you for that explanation, because I
On the fundraising.
I wasn't clear on what the big picture was. That makes sense. So there was basically parents that were competing with the school in some, and it was just kind of,
Well,
We had
that's what we wanted to avoid as we
Avoid,
expanded
gotcha.
into this.
We had a period of time where we were dealing with baskets a lot. So here's this great basket and we're gonna sell, we're gonna do a fundraiser with basket, and the same
Parents.
businesses were getting asked 3 different times to contribute to a basket for Blue.
okay,
And so the need for coordination is a
Yes, got it.
definite issue.
got it.
Just like it for fundraising as a whole. So,
And
if
this
you're gonna
was-
sell a basket, that's your fundraiser for the year, then the teacher, the classroom over here needs to not. So we've done some
Oh,
of
that
that
makes a lot of
work
sense.
Right.
Yeah,
in organizing things by having fundraisers approved, and that's really
oh, yeah.
like, only one person is gonna sell, one class is gonna sell snow cones this Friday. We're not
Right.
2 classes
Mhm.
selling snow cones at opposite ends of the school. So that's some coordination where
Got
we
it.
need to be involved.
It
But
needs to go through.
there needs to be that, but this is really about those bigger things, like we want to write a grant for the school.
Mhm, in general.
I'm a grant writer and I've written many, but is that really what you want me to do if there's someone
No.
else that could do it?
Yeah,
And,
got it.
and so can we coordinate that and collect the information? There is one right now that's up to $10,000 from Northern,
Valley.
yeah,
um,
and I haven't written it for it yet, partly because I want other people to make
And what is it
input
for?
for that. It's for schools.
in general.
So were you, okay, so then that would be like another,
That would be one that I would be able to say, here's a grant that's available, what do we want to write it for, who wants to write it? If it comes down.
And then
to,
that
yeah,
goes to
I
the
can write it,
finance, once it's approved, it would go
Yeah.
to the finance committee to be seeing how that money, the funds are
okay,
allocated.
I totally understand now. I was
Okay,
like
got
a
it.
little, yeah, okay,
Okay.
cool. So that's a
Right.
great goal, yeah.
We have,
sorry.
I'll be fine. Yes, your parents that want it.
No, that's great. Okay, so Christina, I'd love to hear from you first, and then Martha Joe, we'll go to you next.
Thanks. I don't know if it's really appropriate right now to talk about amending the strategic plan or if it's just an update of it. But I think at that point where it is in the process of being updated, I think it would be appropriate to add goals in terms of DEI to the strategic plan, just to make sure that those efforts don't get awashed in the busyness that we're all involved in. And then not so much to do with the strategic plan, but it just made me realize as a parent council rep last year, first year on the parent council, it seemed like we spent the entire year being surprised about things that we should have been doing that we didn't know. And it was a lot due to quite a bit of turnover, I think, but I think it would be helpful for maybe the parent council, because there is going to be turnover. If staff could help, maybe, I mean, I would be willing to help with the work of creating some sort of handbook for the new parent council reps. And we didn't even know we were supposed to be doing classroom fundraising. And then just 2 weeks ago, I found out that we're supposed to coordinate childcare for the back to school meetings in the classrooms that none of us knew about. And there was like no time to coordinate that last minute. So I think those types of things would be really helpful to make the parent council organization more successful.
So actually, I have a draft of a parent handbook that I promised to get started last year on my Google Doc right now. Little surprised about the childcare for the classrooms, didn't know that that was being asked of parent council, so so
I know
definitely we
previously-
need to talk about it.
I think previously that was something that the parent council, if I remember correctly, had committed to funding, but I didn't realize that it transitioned to providing or coordinating. that.
Yeah.
I think the way it was written recently in the last release for the Acorn and stuff was a good way to get your volunteer hours. That's why, so there might have been some confusion. But I think that's historically always been, yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds great that it sounds like you're already working
Yeah,
on
and I-
that piece. And Christina, I don't know if you heard earlier, one of the things that we had discussed is like looking at now, are we getting to the point of drafting a new strategic plan? So that is something that we kind of began the discussion on earlier in the meeting. And so this isn't a meeting to add goals or revamp the strategic plan, because as you certainly know, if you've ever been part of a strategic plan planning process, it is pretty cool and super involved. So so I definitely think it sounds like that's kind of on the docket for the upcoming, and something that I think we're all seeing as we go through these goals that we're checking off, we're coming to a conclusion of many of them, so it's time to revamp. So great points. And I like
There's so much.
the recommendation to include the DEI as part of the strategic plan. That's a good recommendation. And Christina, your hand is still up. Is that because you have more to add, or did you just not take it down? Okay, thank you. So Zoom is so hard because you can't tell for sure always. Okay, so Martha Joe.
Hello. First, sorry I was late. I am 2 hours ahead of you guys in time zone. So my daughter is at your school this year. It's her first year, and thank you so much for allowing her to attend there. On the fundraising part, so I own a nonprofit and I do lots of fundraising and grant searching. I would be more than willing to help with that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We raise about $13,000 to $25,000 at each function for my nonprofit.
That's fantastic.
Great.
That's fantastic.
So the only lady that I know there that I talked to is her name is Kelly. So I can email her because I don't know anybody else's email yet.
That would be perfect, because just email Kelly since you've already got her contact and ask
Okay.
you in touch with probably Alex. Because Alex can coordinate all the things. She's the coordinator of all the things.
Okay.
Not her official job title, but
I would love to help you guys with fundraising.
that's fantastic.
Thank you, Monica.
Yes.
You're
thank
welcome.
you. All right. So yeah, it sounds like that task force too, it's time to revamp that as we emerge from our cocoon COVID, where we can have events that can raise money, that we can, like in our goal,
Don't make it fun. She's busy.
like in our goal too, having, you know, having events that we can have, you know, and so I think much of those go hand in hand, having those.
Right,
So
the other
that's-
goal with the
Yeah.
marketing and fundraising, yeah, especially with the new site. Cool.
Easy. So a lot done, more to work on. Is the moral of that.
Continuous improvement.
Yeah,
All right, great. Well, thank you for these updates.
I know, I was just looking at the parent square. That's so awesome. 100% families reached in the parent square. That's huge. That was a big one to, I was just looking at the past ones and I was just like, wow, that's great. I know that was a big one for you guys to do.
It was.
Yeah, it's such a great communication tool.
It is.
I barely downloaded the app today, only because I didn't have memory of it. I know Miss Denver's like, your life is going to change.
It's
And it really is.
It's
yeah.
amazing.
It
So I
is
was going
amazing.
through my email, but I still got it because I checked my email.
And we were first on that.
But it's
like
really,
Blue Oak did that first and then now it's throughout.
I don't know, I get parent squared by everybody. I was like, about time.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's nice because it's all in the same app, like.
Yeah.
get
and to be
notifications
honest,
in
I
one
was like
place for
talking
both
with our
systems.
reps, class reps and planning for things. It's
Sorry, I just saw that and I was like,
So I will just
Past-
say kudos a little bit to charters. You know, charters were developed in order to try different things with the hope that school districts would be able to learn from that. So when we talk about our DEI task force and we talk about Parent Square, we are leaders.
yes,
in
for
the-
sure.
In the education community in Butte County. Because
Yeah,
the
I agree.
district has listened to us, talked to us, and suddenly a few months later, they're doing what they're doing.
I saw that. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's
but it's
really
a
one of-
good,
like
it's
you
a good
said,
ending. It's a good
Yeah.
trend to set. It's
well, like
great
you
to
said,
be a
it's one
leader.
of the
and-
great things about being part of a charter school.
Mhm.
You know, when you have a smaller community like this, it's a much better place to pilot things,
Mhm.
to see a need and meet it. And then, you know, when you have our subgroup that has shown, yeah, this is good. And then having the larger groups run with it, I think is really one of the beautiful things about charter schools, that they have that ability to do more easily.
Yeah,
Is there a show? Okay. Sometimes I forget to take, we're not voting.
We're not voting on anything.
Okay.
You're
Nope,
just
and
giving
even
her-
with that, you
You're
Oh, so
getting
you
her
can go
to
get
do it.
I
water.
could have gotten
I was
water.
telling her, no, she can't get water.
I'll wait for goal
You
6.
must be thirsty.
You can go first because restroom is.
Oh, but I think that takes us to the end of our goals.
Yeah.
And into the
Governance.
records report.
Yes. I jumped down and thought it was on 3.
No,
I had all my notes in here. So
no, that takes us to item 4 on the agenda, administration.
So verbal report only this time. We're still in the process of and successfully filling positions. We have, at least for our school psych, we have Jo Lynn is her name. Can't pronounce her last name, so I won't try. And she is a retired school psych from Tehama County. So she is working at least temporarily with us, splitting her time with us and with Sherwood. and a really great asset, very experienced and coming in with, this is what I think we need to do, and what about this, and just some real knowledge that she's bringing forward. So appreciating her. We signed a new speech therapist, again, sharing with Sherwood. This seems to be working really well.
Those were important roles too.
Yeah, so we've got,
Not that they're not all, but.
yeah, but so she
Yes.
signed her papers and smiled her way in.
Yay.
She was a parent at the school many, many years ago
Oh,
when Kate McDonald was in kindergarten. So it's been.
wow.
And so she was a parent, and then she had to move from the area, and so now she's back. I'm very excited. This is her
Oh,
goal.
how
She's
cool.
back at Blue Oak. She thinks we're wonderful.
Yay.
Very happy face to see
I
this
really like her.
today. Very excited. And then we have a Spanish interview. We've had a assistant admin interview. We've had a, I think we've offered a position to someone for the kitchen, and
Oh,
we're
nice.
having further 8 interviews and hopefully another facilities staff interview. So we're still plugging away. It's hard to
Great.
be at this point of the year and still be hiring. It's pretty exhausting,
Yeah.
but we're glad that they seem to be moving well. We are working with the team that we sent to Orange County this year for the multi-tiered system of support work. We had Brenda Duval, who is our coach, come and meet with the team last week. A person that is clearly, and everybody could see that, clearly knows her stuff, and was telling how we compared other schools and so many good things. She was very impressed with us. And I just told her to remember how great we are. So we worked with them, and then we'll be completing that fidelity integrity assessment that I spoke of earlier. It is made up of 22 items of things to review, and it's a rubric that says, are you doing this, and where are you on the rubric? Are you just starting it? Are you like totally good on it? And we've done it as a leadership team because it's a pretty extensive thing for about 5 years. And so this year I asked the team, and they begrudgingly, I think, are supporting me, to help us break it down into smaller groups so that the staff can start reviewing the process themselves. Because so part of this new grant is really to make MTSS not something that the leadership does and everybody else just follows along, but something that really everybody begins to understand the importance of social emotional learning, of, how are we integrating special education into the classroom, all of those things. And so we'll be working with that at this all staff meeting and then the next one, so that we have a chance at least to understand the process, if not the whole of it, at least to understand how, where those items come from, how we rate ourselves, and really how the school is doing. So I think it's a long-term, it's heavy stuff. So it's kind of a longer term thing, but I think it will lead into, if we do this before the strategic plan, it will lead into really people thinking about where we need to be. We tend to decide where we need to be based on what we personally have seen or where we are, instead of where everyone is. So this is a document that says, this is what best practices are considered for in schools right now. And so if we look at that and we can say, based on this, this is where we are, that's a good start for it. So that's the work that we're doing for the next 2 months in our all staff meeting. Great, so one more thing. So we were reviewed by the Williams team, Williams Act team. Williams Act is was based on a lawsuit, I think it was in Southern California, where we had wealthy schools getting a lot of resources and less wealthy schools having leaky roofs and old textbooks. So that was the start of it, and charters have been exempt from it until this year. So this year, charters were brought into that fold to be reviewed for that. And they came in and they counted our textbooks and make sure we have the right postings up. And so, and then we're on that list because our test scores are still low. Low test scores, they want to come and make sure we're not just spending the money on frivolous things. So we did, the team came in, there were 3 of them, 2 on curriculum and 1 to look at the building. And other than some stained tiles and frayed carpet tiles, there were no problems with the building. And the 2 education staff people were just enthralled, with the Waldorf education. Of course, it worked out that I went into Kate McDonald's class first, who was a very organized and articulate person. So she started them off, and from there we went to Jennifer's class, and they got even more because Jennifer had a main lesson book out for them to look at, and so we went around, and I emailed the staff this today. By the time we got to upper grades, we're like, we forgot to look for the complaint codes. We were so excited about what we were seeing. So that felt good. But we were able to show them that the complaint codes were on the door, so they were fine. Anyway, so it was a successful and a real win and a breath of relief for all of us. Sure. When they left, and we're like, great, you guys did a great job. So
When did that
You're under
happen?
inspection, like even
Yeah.
if you know that you're in compliance, still that like, okay.
yeah, it's, because it can be attitude, but and that's what I told, the teachers were great. They were all knew exactly what to say, and they all said the right thing. You guys are good. And sad, and we're like, those are where my books are. Students, please take all your books out of your desks and show them, so they were all set for it. So it was really good. So we have a great team here. And so we switched through that. They might be, who knows? Yeah.
Great, and it's the fold of inspections and seeing what Turner's doing.
Yeah, it's probably good because they kind of get raps for like not holding the same standards. So it's kind of nice that they did come and it's like, no, we are. No, above and beyond. Yeah, it's awesome.
It was, we were, I gave them a binder with all the teachers' block plans, and they were very impressed because all of the block plans, the ones that I gave to them, they don't necessarily give to the parents. They show what all the Common Core standards are covered. So they're doing this biology block, and here are the standards that we're doing.
Neat.
So I said, this is their teacher's paper. And then the big lesson book is the textbook. And they're like, wow, teachers actually, so it was definitely a wowing time. We were all ready for the beautiful binder that we made all Waldorf.
Cool.
That's great.
So that's it for today.
That's a lot.
That was a lot.
Yeah. All righty.
Yeah,
Well, does
played that
anybody
already.
have any questions for Susan on her report? Let's start. Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. That takes us to item 5, noting that our next meeting is Tuesday, September 20th at 6 p.m. And right into item 6, adjournment. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Everybody take care.
Already on my calendar.